Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive with me, Tim Elliott, on Mira Business FM. So the UAE's FinTech sector is moving fast from digital payments and insurtech to AI-driven personal finance. The race towards 2026 is already underway. Now, the region's financial landscape is evolving. That much is very clear. But what challenges still lie ahead? Where are the biggest opportunities for customers, consumers and businesses, for all of us? Now, joining us is a leader who's been at the center of the transformation. Neeraj Gupta is the CEO of Policybazaar.ae, the digital insurance and financial aggregation platforms. And he's here. Good to meet you.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Nice to have you here today. I've got lots of questions to ask you. Very general discussion, to be honest with you. First time
Sure.
you're here, and I'm hoping you're going to come back and join us regularly. When you look, Neeraj, you're the man in the know. You look at the UAE FinTech ecosystem today. What's changed most in the last 5 years?
So a couple of things, right? If you look at it, about 2018-19 at least, one of the things which became very clear is the digital distribution guidelines, right?
Right.
If you look at pre-2018-19, it was a very gray area on how aggregators or digital comparison platforms would exist, right? So that became a clarity. The other aspect, if you look at it, is the regulator is working very hard in terms of getting a lot more regulations out, be it a virtual asset VARA or RegTech. So a lot of regulations have been there for things which were unknown before. The other aspect is obviously those sandboxes. Today, the DIFC or the ADGM, they are bringing in a lot of fintech players, enabling licenses to come in very fast. With central bank coming in with the open finance regulations, I believe that will be a game changer for the industry. So if you look at it, the government is at the forefront of changing the regulation landscape, which is a very great thing for any player who wants to set up shop, because you need a clarity on how the regulations are going to look forward to. And you also get a sense of comfort that, okay, I'm not going to have to shut shop once I scale. I believe that is very paramount. Right?
Well, I mean, there's been so much kind of regulatory facilitation in a really short space of time. There's also been the will to do it. I guess
Yes.
you've seen that as well.
Definitely. The government here works very differently from a perspective. It's more collaborative. Without naming anything, one of the leaders of our organization was here some time back, right? And he was invited to a closed door meeting. And it was with the senior most staff of the government, right?
Yeah.
And he was mighty surprised that I have traveled across the world. This does not happen anywhere else. Where the government has invited the business leaders to sit through and plan about what they want to do over the next 5-10 years, and how could the business community come up with their suggestions and ideas. And there are people who are willing to listen to it. And it's not somebody down the line who will just take notes and probably pass it up, but the real decision makers are part of those meetings, right? Which you otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah, well, and that's the point, isn't it? I asked you, I said that in that first question. I said 5 years for a very specific reason, because it is a really, really short space of time that this space has got to this point where, you're, I guess, a prime mover, really, in many ways, but you have competition.
Obviously, yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Insurance aggregation was once, it was very, very traditional, a little bit stuffy, a little bit boring looking in from the outside, I guess, to many of us. What was it, do you think, that made the UAE ready, ripe for digital disruption when you launched?
See, a couple of things, right? One, obviously, the clarity on how license clarity, I believe that obviously helps. Second, if you look at UAE as such, right? There's a lot of digital adoption from a perspective. It's a digital native audience. There's 85%, 90% is expats who come from markets where they're used to consuming a lot of digital services.
Yep.
And secondly, if you look at India and the UK, a lot of those consumers are used to using insurance aggregation platforms. Right?
Yeah.
So that is one of the things. The third is obviously the anchor products. You have motor and health, which is compulsory for everybody to have. So as a result, consumers are always in the market looking out for these products, right? Uh, the other aspect is if you look at the small and mid, so you have roughly about 60 players, right, who offer insurance products, as I say. But a lot of our small and mid size, which do not have probably the financial might on the to spend on technology and marketing. They might have great products, but they don't have the reach to the consumers. And that is where a platform like Policybazaar.ae comes in and helps them reaches to the masses because they have the right product, but probably not the right infrastructure. And that is where we combine together and help them.
I mean, I was going to ask you, how does the fintech movement here, the environment here in the UAE compare with markets like India or Europe in terms of the innovation, the adoption? And you've kind of half answered that, but I'm wondering, is there anything that is unusual that we're doing here or that you guys are doing here or perhaps might be doing here in the future that stands out from other more established markets?
See, great point from an India, Europe, because UAE market is always compared, right? What is happening in Europe, because especially being a very expat heavy and Indian also being a very significant portion and then Europeans, right? All markets, so what UAE typically does is it takes the best of all the worlds and adopts it, right? That is what UAE is best at. But if you look at these markets, right? If you look at India, India is more bottoms up from a perspective. If you look the UPI movement that went over India, it has become the leader in terms of transactions, right?
Right.
What the government of UAE done is it has integrated that solution with UPI. Now, any Indian coming here could pay through his Indian payment system, right? So what I'm trying to say is UAE is taking best of it and trying to adopt on it. Now, if you look at Europe from that perspective, Europe is a lot more matured as we discussed, but I believe the decision making has slowed down. So if you were to be a fintech player, probably looking at license, you might have to have a consensus in any new regulation between the 27 member states. If I correctly remember, there are 27 member states. But if in UAE you're there, the decisions, as we rightly discussed, in 5 years, plethora of regulations has come in. In Europe, like, it cannot happen. Plus, from a licensing perspective, if you go to a DIFC or an ADGM perspective, you could probably get a license in 4 to 6 months, which is unheard of. And for a category probably which is new in the market, they'll figure out a way to help you get through a sandbox or something else, but they'll get you up and running very soon, very fast, right? The other aspect which I believe very different is in Europe, you get built trust primarily as an organization. Data privacy is very important. How my consumer data is going to be used is very important. If you look at India, India is more about usability, convenience, and you can scale up basis that. If you look at UAE, again, it is about convenience, but also in terms of alignments. If in the UAE you're aligned with the regulators, the big banks, the big insurers, typically your success rate is going to be much faster, much higher, because they will enable you to be part of the ecosystem, right? And that is how it is different.
Okay. I mean, it's going to data privacy here is going to change. Data protection is going to. There are some. The new regulations are certainly in effect. Behavioral change. I mean, we're certainly very open to digital adoption here. You are right, but there are people. You still have to talk into this. What is it, do you think, that still stops people in the region embracing digital finance?
I believe one of the important aspects is cultural aspect, right? People here typically are more social. They want to talk to people. And as a result, what we have realized is at times they want to speak to people. They believe they could get a better deal, they could get a better discount. So that overhang always remains for consumers, and especially when it comes to a transaction which is probably a couple of hundreds or thousand dirhams, right? If you're doing a transaction of 50, 100 dirhams, I don't think so you really think about it. But if you're doing 2,000, 3,000 dirhams, that becomes one. And if you look at it similarly from a banking perspective, right? If you want to do a 100 dirhams transaction, you'll probably do it. You want to deposit 2,000 dirhams, you'll do it. But if it's a larger transaction, mortgage, for example, you are not going to do it online completely. You want to sit through with somebody, probably understand every aspect, terms and condition, although in a digital format, it might be more transparently available. but still, there's a human touch to it.
There's an element, isn't there, with something like mortgage finance? That's a good example of
Yeah.
wanting to be not handheld through, but almost comforted through it. Because this is, for a lot of people, biggest thing you're ever going to spend money on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the other aspects, if you look at it from a consumer perspective, with the deep fakes and everything coming in, so we are part of the tech ecosystem. We expect we are intelligent enough to understand, but at times we are also surprised with the way the frauds are happening. You'll be taken aback, right? Like the way the scamsters are working, they're far more intelligent, superior, right? So I believe that also puts the consumers or in public at large at a bit wary, because today the scams are not happening on a smaller level. They happen at a much larger, and they probably wipe out your bank accounts. Earlier, you could be scammed through like 100, 500 dirhams, but now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dirhams, like scams. So I believe people are wary on that.
I think so, and I think the financial institutions are doing a much better job on that as well. You know, there are far more warnings now. You know, take care, be aware of phishing, be aware of this as well. I'm interested in consumer behaviour, particularly with a platform like yours, and I wonder if consumers are they more price driven? Are they more convenience driven? Are they more trust driven when it comes to insurance and financial products, or is it all of the above?
It's hybrid, right? A
It
consumer
is, right.
needs everything, obviously, right? Like today, it's almost impossible to keep a consumer happy. It's almost like you cannot keep your wife happy all the time.
Right. It's happy wife, happy life, happy consumer, happy life. Does that work?
I believe happy consumer, happy life is much better and easier to achieve. But having said that, see, consumer is looking for everything, right? If you look at the price perspective, I believe price becomes the initial filter, because a lot of consumers, and I'm sure you've spoken to a lot of people in this market, the cost of living over the last couple of years has become a major concern.
Sure.
Right? The costs are rising. Everything is becoming expensive. Probably more people are coming in, so salaries are not going up from that perspective, because you have more people to take up that roles, right?
Yeah.
So as a result, price becomes the initial filter, where they will say, okay, this is just beyond my budget, so I don't want to look at it. Okay, these probably 5 plans or something, or 5 products are fitting in my range, so let me look at it. So it becomes the initial filter. Convenience has become a de facto, right? Like hygiene. You have to have it. Like today, you do not have a digital process of payment or buying the product. The consumer expect that to be the least. Like it's a hygiene. You have to have that. It's not that, okay, I offer a mobile app or a product which you can buy online and that's a wow. Probably 5 years ago, it was a wow. But today, it's a convenience, right? And then eventually is the trust. Trust will help you close for a consumer, right? So if you had to define these things, I would say the price becomes the hook, convenience is the standard, and trust becomes the anchor, which will help the consumer close down. I believe that is how I look at it.
Okay. Has the post-pandemic mindset permanently changed how residents think about insurance and financial security? Has that had an effect?
Definitely. So what we are seeing is, I believe it has moved from a once a year conversation to probably a regular conversation in the household, right?
Okay.
Post pandemic, I believe everybody became aware that, see, if you look at insurance, typically nobody gets up in the morning and says, okay, today I'll buy insurance, unless you're forced from a regulator perspective. You cannot drive your car on the road, so you have to have that. Otherwise, nobody wants to think about insurance from that perspective, right?
Yes.
And why is that? Also, if you look at especially on the health insurance, if it was not mandatory, a consumer feels, I am fit and fine, I'm probably made of steel, so nothing's gonna happen to me, I'm immune to everything, right?
Yep.
But pandemic made everybody stop and think that this can actually happen to you.
There's a reset moment, I think.
Exactly. And it's very real, right? And I believe there would be nobody who was untouched by it, right? From a perspective, you would have somebody in your family who had to probably go through one of the worst times of their lives, where the main person was not there in your extended family, and their immediate family suffered a financial drought or a financial misery, right? So I believe the conversation has moved. But if you look at humans, we are resilient, right? We believe in thriving, right? So post pandemic, everything came back. The social life became much more bigger, grander. There were two schools of thought. One school of thought is okay, pandemic can happen anytime. I might not be there. Let me live my life, right?
Yeah.
So there are those schools of thought, but definitely people have become more cautious about it. People have started discussing about it. They believe this is no longer a tick box, but it's a necessity sort of a thing. You don't look at. There's a section of society which does not look at this as just an optional expense. Like for example, food, water, and everything is not an optional expense. It's a mandatory sort of a budget you plan for. And now I believe insurance and financial planning is getting there.
It takes moments like this, doesn't it? I think for people to sit and reset. The rain previously, the huge storm we had. 18 months ago? Is it that long ago?
24, right?
Yeah, it was a while ago now. It seems like yesterday. Let me just, I don't get a lot of chance to talk to people related to the insurance industry, I have to say to you. But a friend of mine said to me years ago, and you'll balk at this at first, and then let me deliver the second part of this. But let me put it to you this way. Insurance is a total waste of money until you need it.
Exactly.
And that's something that's stuck with me. And I think, these reset moments, the rain, COVID, etc., kind of reinforce that. It's always a challenge, though, isn't it, to get people to understand the importance of insurance, I guess.
Totally. Like education has to be constant, right?
Yes.
I believe education on insurance and financial products, if you look at Policybazaar.ae, be it here or be it back home in India, wherever we've been there, and we've been here for about 7 years, in India for about 17 years. Education, financial education is our primary focus. We want to educate consumers why protection is important. If you look at it, at our core is the 3 Ds of life, which is disease, death, disability. These are the three things which you really need protection for, right? And now, if you add on it, probably would be a pension sort of a thing, because people are living longer than they earn. So, or their savings are, right? So people need solutions for that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a constant. Why is it a constant? As I said, people are too bogged down with the current expenses, current planning. So at times you do not have a moment to sit back and think about the future. So I believe that is where we are. We keep on educating the consumers on why is it important, and yes, and to give their family, the loved ones, a life which they always aspire to. Right? I believe the conversation needs to move from a risk, from a loss to probably a loved one, care for your family. I believe that is how the conversation needs to move.
It tugs at the heartstrings for sure. I mean, that's a challenge. The education aspects. Educatory should be a word. That is obviously a major challenge. What other challenges do you face in the UAE today? I guess in terms of being in FinTech.
See, couple of things. I believe one is building trust with the consumers. Right, consumers at times look at any digital platform with a thing that they can scam me or not. So I believe we work very hard on building that trust. Obviously, our brand name helps at least with a segment of community, because if you're an Indian, you would have transacted with us, if not here in India for sure.
Yeah,
right?
you're known for sure.
Yeah. So that helps. Second, I believe in educating the consumers in multicultural, multi-language aspect. I believe everything works very differently in any cultural aspect. And the third, I believe, which the government is helping, is ensuring that the people look at UAE from a long-term perspective. See, insurance is a very long-term solution. If the people are looking at a very short-term aspect of staying in a country, then they look at it, then insurance does not fit into it, right? If they're looking at from a 3-5 years. But I believe the government has enabled that for a lot of people, with visas coming in which are long-term, and enabling a lot of innovation, and enabling people to set up their own shop, right? I believe that is helping, but these would typically be the challenges, right?
Cybersecurity, the idea of security, you've touched on it a few times there, but I guess if we look forward, the next phase of fintech growth, cybersecurity, data trust that must be front and center for you.
Definitely, definitely. I believe cybersecurity, data, how do you use data? See, if you look at security, cybersecurity, I believe the whole economy as such, the whole institutions will be working a lot more on that. See, data is one thing which will evolve over a period. Now, there are two aspects to it. Consumers at one side are looking for a hyper personalized solution, right? Which means I really need to get Tim's personal data to probably hyper personalize it. But now the challenge is, and it at times can become an ethical question, right? For example, health insurance. What might it lead to? Now, if I have the data for everybody, I would only start to insure people who are healthy. With the data coming in for people I know who are going to get sick or probably will have a condition, I will start to outprice them, right? Now, if you look at insurance, the bare minimum or the basic concept is you pool the risk together. You will have people who will have good health, you will have people who are prone to diseases, and you will subsidize each other, right?
Yeah.
But if you start to do too much of personalization, where do you end up? The healthy life says, oh, I run marathons, I do this, I should be insured at a much cheaper cost. Yes, absolutely. But there's another person who's not taken care of his health. Now, you could debate, yes, he should have taken care of his health, he should run, he should jog, but so be it, right? As an economy, as a government, what do you do there, right? So I believe data will evolve. Obviously, it'll be a lot more security. Things will come into play. How you use this data, you'll have to tell the consumer, okay, this is the way I'm using your data. And if you look at open finance framework with the way they're coming in, I believe that will lead to a lot more things.
That's
from that
really
perspective.
interesting. I appreciate that, Neeraj. A couple more questions for you because we're running out of time. If we fast forward to 2026, I mean, one of the things that we all do at the end of the year in this industry is look ahead and what's going to happen. I don't expect you to have a crystal ball, but what your ideas of how the UAE fintech ecosystem may look compared to where we are and have been for the last year or two?
So I believe a couple of things. Open finance will really come into existence. I believe they're running a bit on schedule or a bit behind or whatever, but I believe that will come to reality. And that will enable a lot of democratization on the products and availability. That is what my estimate is. Second, obviously, adoption of AI is gonna probably look a lot more there. Right now, if you look at the adoption of AI and everything, probably every day's human's life is not touched with it. A lot of back-end processes, yes, AI has come in. But I believe now consumer will start to interact with their service provider when they deal with it. They might be interacting with an AI. So those are the couple of things that I see 2026.
I thought we were going to get away with one interview this year without mentioning AI, but you can't do it. You really can't at the moment.
And that to FinTech and AI, sorry.
I know, you had to go there. Look, last question for you. What is, I suppose, your long-term vision for Policybazaar.ae's role when it comes to shaping awareness and protection in the UAE? You've talked at some length about education. But what's the vision?
So for our vision is very simple, right? To make insurance a lot more simpler and accessible to everybody, especially the middle class, right? I'm not talking about HNIs. They have probably enough financial savings and assets to take care of themselves. But typically a salaried individual, right, who's dependent on his salary and he's thinking about, I'll retire at 60 and I'll build a corpus. We want to create products which are easily digestible by them, easy to understand, and we make the entire process a lot more convenient for them. If they have a problem, they can use the product and they can be very assured about the product. That is what our objective is, to continue to educate the consumer about protection. As I said, 3 Ds of life, which is death, disease and disability, and then look at probably child plans, because once you're married, you have a kid, you're looking at how do I support my child's education goals? And the fifth would be probably about a pension plan, where once you stop earning, how do you do that? Because more and more people are looking to settle in the country post their jobs.
There's no doubt about that, that's for sure. Neeraj Gupta is the CEO of Policybazaar.ae. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thank you for coming and joining us.
Thanks, Tim. Pleasure.
Really appreciate it. It's the Morning Drive. This is Mira Business FM. Leave us a like, hit subscribe wherever you're joining from. Get in touch. We always want to hear from you. Let us know what you think. And remember, everything we do is available to listen or watch again. Find us wherever you get your podcasts from. All you need to do is search Mira Business FM.